Hello YouTube family, James Green, short serious shenanigans. Size matters. I love this coffee cup. Alright, so today's video is going to be it's in reference to, I have a Milwaukee, now this is a friend of mine. It's a Milwaukee catalog number 2621-20. It's a reciprocating Sawzall. I've got it apart. This isn't a video on how to take it apart. There's a lot of them out there. What this video is about, excuse me, it's not a bashing video or, or whatever. What it is a good information video. Now, the reason I read that right off the bat is because depending on what parts you need, I know when I was looking up the catalog number or the parts for this, you have to go by catalog number because this is a M18, but there's a bunch of different variations depending on whether it's home and hobby, professional grade, the fuel, all the others, or even depending on where around the world, because the insides can vary. So what it is, the reason a friend of mine brought this over, he said, hey, here's the pieces here, I've got them. It had, my understanding is this was in some sort of a holder and it got rained on for a couple of days, didn't know about it. And it was the blade release. So he used it until the blade went dull because he couldn't get it out. Now I had to cut the blade off and disassemble everything. Now I've got the parts here. Let me scoot my chair up. So I love these magnetic trays. Now, not everything in this magnetic tray belongs to this, but what it is, you have the spring and you've got the various components around it. What it was, okay, in today's manufacturing, making parts, you'll have like a die, they put a powdered metal in, and by whatever process, by heat and pressure, they make parts. The thing about pressed metal parts is once they get water on them, they rust really, really rapidly and they stick together. So the release mechanism on all these saws is very, very similar. What it was is that is supposed to have a little squared end on it, okay, because this is the blade pin release mechanism, and here's one thing that it goes through. Now I've even cleaned it up and it even re-rusted because this stuff is porous. So needing more than just that, and these other items here you can see, I will put them in my hand, okay. So you have a little collar here, and that cam locks in, and what helps with the whole, and I'll show that other part later, you've got the collar, the pin, you've got a plastic protected sleeve, if you will, however it fits in with this. You've got the spring that articulates everything, and then you've got another, this is pressed metal as well too. So those parts actually came in a kit. Now I've used e-parts for a while now, since the internet was invented. Before, whenever you needed to repair a power tool, you typically would go down, there's a place here in Albuquerque we could go to, and we take and drop it off, or we just get the parts ourselves. But for 20 bucks, I got all those parts and they're all new, okay? So it took some fighting to get it apart, and that's why I say look at your catalog number. So this video is specific and it'll be in the title. I'll put a link in the description bar, in the description box, for if you happen to have this exact model. Now these are probably going to be very much the same as far as I can tell for all the fuel models, or the ones that have the little quick release cam with the spring you don't want to lose. Where it gets different, where I've noticed, is looking inside, is if you get into the gearbox. Now, so there's other videos out there of how to take them apart. Now I'm just going to highlight on some things that I found that's going to be useful information. So if you're going to take one apart, you'll be armed with information. So when you get this apart, you can already see I've started to reassemble some stuff. The reason I chose this type of grease, okay, is You can get it at O'Reilly's. I'm a big fan of getting stuff at O'Reilly's because I got a professional account there. And if you're a veteran, so you get a depending on what it is, sometimes your pro account is cheaper than your veterans discount. But this type of grease here, after a lot of use, will not get really hard, and it was all slung away. It's a high pressure grease. It'll work in all sorts of environments, really hot, really cold, if moisture happens to get in here. Now, there was no evidence of moisture getting up in here, but the grease that was in there, there's other videos on YouTube out there where you can see they get them apart. This thing's a mess. So, without popping this back out, so to clarify really quick, so in case you guys have the question, and I'm sure it'll be asked, so this is a bearing cover. This bolt that goes on here that holds this whole mechanism on, right here, because I had to pull it off and clean all the garbage out of it. This is left-hand thread, just so you know. It's a Torx 40. So if you try to remove this, okay, it's left hand. Now, what I want to note as well, this bearing was fine. How you see it sealed on that side. Now, I can pop this out here if it'll, well, it's already pressed together. Anyway, it will. It's all stuck together with grease. So on this side of the bearing that's in there, it's actually open, and the cage, and I've packed it. So I've taken, this is why I like using tongue depressors for packing and pushing down, and I filled the bottom up with this grease. Okay, so that's to take note in regards to what is in there. So what I've seen and what I was talking about earlier, depending on the model, now you can look at the exploded diagrams, depending on what model. This one is smooth inside and it only has 2 washers. Some that can vary a little bit can have 3 washers, and it can be the inside here can, like you see the inside how it has a lip where it locks onto that one shaft. There's others that have a 3rd washer, and it can't, and I don't know what it is or whatever special design. And then this is also, you can see, a dished / domed washer. It fits in a specific way, and the reason I mention catalog number, okay, it's very important. You don't just pull up any old parts diagram. They're going to vary. Some of the parts are the same consistently. In this particular model, where it only has those 2 washers, it'll actually show you which way the washer, the diagram is actually that good from eParts. PDF file, they're free to download, you don't have to pay. If you go to a website and you have to pay to download schematics for this, you're at the wrong website. Now, the reason I say eParts is it's a site that I've used them a lot. They're really they're very economical. I get nothing out of this. It's just, you guys know, if I like something, I'm going to tell you about it. And when you hit a Google search, chances are you're going to see an eParts pop up. I've always had good luck with them. If you're not sure about a certain, that's why I say put the model number in when you get to their website and look at the specific one. Yes, a lot of the parts can be the same, but they can also vary depending, like I said, whether it's home and hobby, it's professional use, or literally depending on where it's sent around the world. Now, this is actually a Chinese-made Milwaukee, professionally made in China by Milwaukee. Now, just like any other person that makes something, believe it or not, some things are made actually well overseas. I'm not saying all things, some things are. It's just like you and I. If you're having a good day at work, you're happy, you're doing a good job, things turn out great. It just, with some of this stuff, what I've seen, and I don't know when this model was built, this was actually for a home hobby, semi-professional. If you're using a Sawzall all day, every day, this probably isn't going to be the model for you, but for what my friend uses it for, it works great. It's, he's a Milwaukee fan. I've got some old like 1970s Milwaukee stuff, and it's good stuff. So something else I noticed was, because the end of this, where this cam lock, because it would only go so far and would stop because everything was rusted. Now, the parts, the new parts, are right here. So this is what the back of that pin should look like. It should be square. Okay. Now it's pressed metal along with all these other parts. They're all brand new. Okay. All of these are brand new. So I went ahead and purchased them because you've got a new snap ring that holds all that in. It's like a flat special type of ring. Anyway, these are all brand new right here. Less than 20 bucks shipped. Rather than, and you can order some of those parts individually, but it's like, okay, they all work in conjunction if they were rusted, and it's simple. Dude, 20 bucks less than shipped. Go for it. So problem solved. All those parts are new. Now, what I did notice was because, okay, so here's where the blade pin, and I've still got to go in there and finish cleaning some rust up. I did have to set this up in the lathe and turn it. This is good solid, hollowed out and whatever. Lightened, I'm guessing. I don't know why they hollowed it, but so I've got to go in there and clean out the rust out of that. Now this was rusted up really badly, and the way this fits in there is like so. And I went in there to clean this up today, which we, getting ready to put it together and going through and removing the little bits of grime, and I got in here, and inside this piece there's actually leather in there. Now you can, let me see. Because it looked kind of rusty, and I started picking at it, and it's actually, there's a leather seal in there. So if this was bad, you can get all these parts. This one's actually good. There's no difference the way it goes. This is a symmetrical part. It'll fit in either way. It's asymmetrical, means it fits one way. Symmetrical means it'll fit both ways. So that was pretty interesting. Even in today's modern technology, they're using leather. Now I've got another video coming out where I'm going to be making some leather cups. I've got my leather soaking in the container back there, and so I think it's pretty neat that even in modern technology they're still using leather. Leather's been around a long time. So this is still in good shape. We're going to make sure we soak it up. I'm going to put some Marvel Mystery Oil in there, and then I'm going to put some grease, because this is what helps all of this work through everything, and it's a wiper seal. Okay, there's also a dust seal in here. Again, that exploded parts view per the number, look at it. It's very, very useful. Everything else that I see here is okay. That was the only thing that was an issue. So I do want to mention, so once you get the investment casting together, all right, the way it's set up is you'll put all, and I'm not going to assemble all this on video. I'm going to go through and get it all ready. The things you're going to need is a 40 Torx for obviously the back, a 20, and then there's one screw on the handle that's a 15, which is up by the trigger. Now, I will mention that first you need to get your, and vice versa, when you go to take it apart, there's a rubber condom that's been pulled off. It's a big pad, and that'll get put back on. So the way you put that on is you put it in really, really hot water, get it hot, and then you slide it on, and it goes on really easy. I'm going to let my buddy put that back on. So here you go. That actually has a slit in it. Okay, everyone's like, why'd you take that out? It's not glued in. Well, in order to put everything together and put the brushes back in, okay, and this is something why I'm doing this. So in case, how do I go back together with it? So for those of you that have ever had a alternator apart and you've had to do brushes, I noticed something in here that could possibly help you, and I'm going to do it to this. I haven't done it yet. So the reason you slide that out when you pull all this out is so when you get ready to go back in with it, there's that locating sleeve. Okay, it just slides in there a specific way, but you're not going to put that in by itself. So let's say we have the whole assembly together already, all right, because there's two screws that holds all this in, and then we need to slide this into the housing. You slide that on, and then there is one raised rib, and that's what locates it. And as you do, now I noticed I had to, when I was, I guess if you will, going through the motions here, because you have to pull the brushes back to get them on. What I'm going to do, so I know it'll be easier for me so I don't mess them up, is if you've ever had an alternator part, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's a little hole in the casting to where you can put brushes, you can put paper clips in, and it holds the brushes back until you get it slid into the housing, and then once you do, pop, and then you're good to go. Because not only do I have to get the brushes to fit in there, but I have to fit that bearing into the back. So that is something that I'm going to do. Like I said, this will already all be together. I'll post pictures of the process on social media, Instagram, Facebook, on my page, stuff like that. I just wanted to take time to kind of show you guys what's going on here, things to look out for. Now when you take them apart, I will say this, so that you are aware of, and this is why I'm doing the video, because I always like to hit YouTube when I'm messing with things that I haven't, okay, what are some hidden issues that I may run across? So when you take this apart, where the battery slides in the back here, there's actually a spring, okay, and you pull up the schematics and everything. You got to be careful, because when you're taking this apart, there's a spring that actually slides in there halfway. If you don't know about it, it'll fly across the shop, so take note on that. That's why I'm doing this, just pointing some stuff out. Everything else looks good in here. I am, when I go back together with this, around the electronics area here, I'm going to, where they all fit into here, which I think is interesting because they still got the anti-theft little metallic strip that's in there. If you ever want to know where they hide them, that's generally where they put them, inside. So when you go out the door, it goes ding, 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 ding. You know, they tell you to come back here in the US, that's how it is. Anti-theft device. But once it's triggered with a magnet, you ain't got to worry about it. But anyway, I am going to go around here. Now, it's not going to make it totally waterproof because you still got the area where the trigger moves. But I am going to put a light bit of silicone to make it more water resistant. So if this thing happens to get rained on again, or if it gets dropped in the mud puddle, it'll stop it. Well, it'll slow it down, it won't stop it, because you still got this moving part in here. Because it was a really tight fit at the factory when it got put together. But there you go, just pointing out some stuff. Again, make sure you look up your catalog number. The schematics can vary, and that's the main thing on here. You know, going back together with it, even on the other side, there's a little bearing in there that's going to get, because the grease that was in here, if you guys have one of these, you need to take it apart and clean it up. You'll see when you get it apart, that grease that they put in there, it gets slung out, and it's dry hard. It never gets back into the bearings. That's why I chose this type of grease, so I know it'll stay on a lot long. That other stuff that was in there was very hard and crusty. Honestly, I think the only way you could probably get it loose is if you were to take a heat gun and heat this up and melt. But then again, it's going to go back into its little spot and be hard again. The grease they use, I will say this, garbage. So if you got one of these and you want to do some preventative maintenance, I would say this. You don't have, you get this open. You can actually leave this, up here to a point. You can, and not pull it off. Okay, you can actually just remove the screws and leave that in there where you don't have to fuss with this. But I would say pull this, pull everything out. You've got to unbolt some stuff, get the old grease out. Certain things you can use to get the grease out. The vast majority use a screwdriver, and then just use some carb cleaner. I use this stuff. Obviously, make sure you have good ventilation and a face shield on that. Or you can use Purple Power. That's another way. I'm a big fan of the Purple Power. Put it in a bucket to get all the residual stuff off, blow it off, clean it off, and then make sure when you go back, because I used carb cleaner and Purple Power to get, I wanted all the old grease and gunk out of everything, because when I go back together with it, I've used that type of grease in doing stuff like this, and it works really, really well. It's a marine grade type. You guys can read about it down at your local O'Reilly's. It resists water, so if water gets in there, a wide range of operating temperatures from, you know, really hot to really cold, and so that's why I chose it. So there you go, a basic information video, because I know when I was looking out there, this is something that I saw a need to kind of an addendum to whatever else is out there. I'm not going to do a here's how you take it apart, here's how you put it together. There's a lot of stuff out there, you know, so there you go. I can see even in this model where they have cut corners to make it more economical to build these, and I get that, I really do. You know, we always talk about the old stuff, they don't build it like they used to. That's very true. But again, this is a light duty weekend warrior, you know, hobbyist slash garage guy. If you were gonna do a lot of cutting all day every day, this particular model I don't think would last. I know they've got other ones out there, but anyway, there you go. I hope this has been helpful. If you guys have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, eagledustoff37@gmail.com, and as well as I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You guys, comments, I love them. If you have questions, you want to know more, I am going to post the exact, even though let's say you have a similar model to this, I'm going to go ahead and post a link in the description box of, and it'll be for, you know, E-Parts, the actual part for this, so you get you guys pointed in the right direction. It'll just be the basic, you know, kind of get you started, because depending on what tool you're working on, it's going to vary. You know, hammer drill, you know, Sawzall, you know, miters, you name it. Any type of hand tool, power tool, you can get parts for stuff there. So even housings, you know, I know, like if I needed to replace that, they've got that stuff available. So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Get everything ready. So yes, I've got the leather soaking in the background over there, and we're going to, after I get this together, we're going to be doing how to make some leather cups. It's going to be an experiment on these little bitty small ones. I've made bigger ones in the past, but there you go. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Take care of yourself and take care of your family, because remember, at the end of the day, you and your family is all you got. Until next time, get out in the garage, and when you go to work on your hand tools, make sure you look up the right catalog or model number for what you're working on. It'll make a big difference in the schematics. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.